Update, am I the a-hole for kicking my wife and her daughter out of my house? Original post. Me, 32 male, and my wife, Andy, 34 female, have been together for about 3 years now. We were married for one of those years. We get along really well. Only problem is her daughter, Carrie, 16 female. She is a daughter from my wife's previous marriage. Her father, my wife's ex-husband, died in a car accident about 5 years ago. When me and Andy started dating, we took things really slow. She didn't introduce me to Carrie until she knew things were serious between us. When I met Carrie, she was acting really distant and overall she was mean to me. But I understood that, of course. I tried to bond with her and spend some time together, but I never forced her to do anything she didn't want to do. I told her to address me with my first name and had no intention to replace her father. I just wanted us to get along. Things got better, but sometimes she was rude to me and had some inappropriate comments. I never said anything to her because my wife told me to just give her some time. Things really escalated after our marriage. I offered my wife and her daughter to live in my house. Andy immediately agreed, her daughter not so much, but since she was 15 at the time, my wife gave her no choice. That's when the problem started. Carrie would intentionally make messes in the kitchen, like destroying glasses and plates and leave the sharp glass on the ground. She would throw things out the window and insult her neighbors, etc. This would happen like twice a week. I admit I have a bad temper, so sometimes I yelled at her and made her clean up her mess, but I never laid my hands on her and never physically punished her. My wife repeatedly told her to stop behaving like that, but it didn't help. This went on for about a year. Last week, she had outdone herself. Me and Andy were coming home from dinner and the garage door was open. We found Carrie there and she was destroying my car. I have a BMW X5, so a pretty expensive one. She slashed 2 tires with a knife and scratched the surface with her keys. I completely snapped. I told her that she was an evil little bee and to get the F out of my house. My wife sided with her and said that Carrie is just acting out and I shouldn't call her like that. I was furious and told my wife that if she's okay with Carrie destroying my stuff, then she can get the F out as well. We argued for about 15 minutes. During the argument, I said that I want Carrie to pay for my car and if she won't, I will sue her. I have a camera in my garage and have everything recorded. Andy told me that I can't do that and that I'm heartless. In response to that, I told them both to pack their bags and get out. It was almost 12 p.m. They packed and left. When I think about it now, I know that I could have handled the situation better and more calmly, but I think this kind of had to happen. We will be having a divorce and I will be seeing a lawyer to sue Carrie for destroying my car. I was just so fed up with her constantly destroying my stuff and overall being toxic. I talked about this with my parents and my mom kind of thinks that I'm the a-hole. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? I just think that you could have handled it better. I mean, I would understand I'd be upset too, but still, you got to control your temper. Now for the comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. There's a difference between giving space and allowing someone to walk all over you. You gave them space and drew a line. If your wife had any respect for you or your marriage, she would have handled it before it got to this point. The kid needs therapy, but things like that don't fly in the real world. Better a civil court case versus charges being pressed. You can't sue your own family. As the girl is only 16, she can't be liable, and thus it's going to fall back on her guardian, the mother. As they are married, you're basically suing yourself. So there really is already a lot of questions about suing a 16-year-old. I don't know if I still want to do that, but I will try to explain it to you guys. I live in Central Europe, and law in my country says that after the age of 15, you can be held accountable for your actions legally. You can't be sent into prison, but you aren't treated like a minor either. So yes, I could sue a 16-year-old. Me and my wife had a prenup and I didn't share money, so after the divorce, if it actually happens, we should get settled pretty easily. So I won't be suing her or even myself. I don't know that if I sue Carrie, her mother will end up being the one who has to pay for the damage. I haven't talked to the lawyer yet. While you're definitely not the a-hole for kicking out a child that has destroyed your things, her mother is definitely a huge a-hole for A, letting her get away with acting out like this. I understand wanting to be supportive of your daughter who lost her father, but holy crap. B, not getting her child counseling the minute she could after her father died. Most emotional trauma will not fix itself. If you do take her to court, I definitely suggest you say something to the judge. If you're able to do that, I don't know how that stuff works, but it would be a good idea if she had a court-mandated therapy. I wish you luck, and I hope everything turns out okay for you. Now for the update. Hey guys, a lot of you asked how I'm doing, and for an update. It has been a couple of weeks since the incident now. I met with my wife and we discussed everything. She wanted to continue with her marriage and give it a second chance, but I told her I want a divorce. It was very hard for me, but in the end, I think it was the right thing to do. I still love my wife, but I don't want to be caught in the middle of all that again. Last year was the most stressful and hardest period of my life, and I felt like I have had to put up my mental health and my well-being first. This wasn't easy for Andy either, but I think she understood. We agreed that this would also be better for Carrie. I strongly advised to get her daughter professional help, and Carrie has started therapy last week. We went to a lawyer's office and signed the divorce papers. It was really quick and smooth. We had a prenup, didn't share money, and our marriage lasted only a year. There are still some small things that need to be dealt with, but it was pretty much over. I also met with my lawyer. We got a rough estimate on the car damage, and it's a lot. 2 slashed tires, deep scratches all over the car, and a bit of cracked windows. It is about 6,000 euros. Average salary in my country is about 1,000 euros a month, so this is a lot of money. We talked to my insurance company, and my insurance doesn't cover vandalism or any kind of this type of damage. My lawyer strongly advised me to go to the police and press charges against Carrie. I wasn't sure about this, but he said if anything goes wrong, this will help my case. So I did that, a couple of days after I met with Andy to talk about this situation. We both brought our lawyers to help us with the legal stuff. I told my insurance won't cover anything, and I want her to pay for all the damage. She said that she doesn't have that much money. They moved in with her parents and she is looking for a new place, so she needs all the money that she can get right now. I offered to pay for the damage now, and she will be paying me back when she has the money. She agreed. Because I reported Carrie to the police, she will have a criminal record, which sucks because it will likely cause her problems in the future. But she kind of brought this on herself. And in a couple of weeks, she will be facing something like a civil rights court. My lawyer said that she will end up likely be getting a court-ordered psychiatrist and some hours of community work. It has been a really rough couple of weeks, but my amazing friends helped me a lot to get through this all, and I'm glad it's over. Also, thank you guys for your judgments and kind messages. Story 2. Final update. Am I the a-hole for not offering to pay for my husband and his kids, leading him to spend all of his savings? Original post. For a while now, my husband John has been getting more and more angry over little things and generally moody and distant. I had finally had enough and approached him about separation. This conversation led to a big blowout and him revealing the state of his finances. My husband and I have always kept our finances separate. Also, although we call each other husband and wife and had a wedding, we are not actually legally married. This is primarily for inheritance purposes because we each have older children from previous relationships. Anyway, John revealed that he had basically no savings left, that all the money he had saved for retirement and for his kids' schooling was gone. Furthermore, he said it was all my fault since he used all of his savings to try and keep up with my lifestyle. There was anything crazy in terms of bills or anything like that, and we always split it all equally. The house we live in, I own outright as well, so there wasn't a mortgage payment. However, I have always liked to travel a lot on fairly extravagant vacations. I would invite John or John and his children to join on trips, but never made them feel like they had to come. That said, he was expected to pay for himself and for his kids, except for recently he accepted every invitation. I would also give my kids things he considered extravagant, but I considered normal, so he felt like he had to give similar things to his own kids. John said with all the spending, to keep up, his savings dwindled very fast. I expressed that I couldn't understand how or why he would spend all he had when he knew he couldn't afford it. He said it was like keeping up with the Joneses, only worse because it was at home, so he couldn't block it out. John thinks since I knew his job and I should have had a basic understanding of his finances and realized that this wasn't a lifestyle that he could maintain. That the kind thing would have been to offer to pay for the trips and other things instead of dangle them in front of his and his kids' faces. Looking back, I probably could have realized that this spending didn't make sense for his salary, but I wasn't thinking about it. I don't think it was my responsibility to keep his finances in mind here. We had agreed from the beginning to keep our finances separate, so to me, that means paying for things separately. Edit, we do not live in a state with common law marriage. Even though I think you are right, of course, with having separate finances and that's what you agreed upon, maybe just a little bit more consideration for your partner. Now for the updates. Update 1. After reading all the comments on my first post, I realized I needed more time to think about things. I also thought with the situation and how it would be the best that we spend the holidays apart to avoid any kind of controversy. He wasn't a fan of the idea, but I eventually got him to agree to go. Last week, things settled down, so we met up to have a more detailed discussion about the state of his finances. A few more things were revealed. I found out that he had lost his job earlier this year and didn't tell me. He got a new job in October, but he went over 4 months without one while pretending he still had one. During that time, he only got a small amount of money from unemployment, so he started putting everything on his credit cards. His new job doesn't pay as much as his old one, so he hasn't been able to pay more than the minimum towards his debts, which are now substantial. I feel like if he had just brought up all these issues earlier, this could have been avoided or we could have worked something out. Now, I really just feel that I just can't trust him. I can't trust him with money. I can't trust him not to hide things from me. I just can't see going back and trying to make things work with him at this point. Since he doesn't have a place to take all their things, I've agreed to store their stuff in my garage until he gets more settled, which means I won't be able to make as clean of a break as I would like right now, but for the most part, it's over. Update 2. For anyone who hasn't read my previous posts, there's 2 of them exposing what happened under my username. I like the suggestion I was given when last posted of paying for a storage unit for their things for a few months. My ex, however, did not agree to it. He said it would make things too difficult because the closest storage location was too far out of the way. It definitely felt like he was trying to cling to things. Since I couldn't get a storage unit in his name without his approval, I talked to a friend who is a lawyer about the situation. He helped me write up a notice that told him that he had 30 days notice to get their things or they will be disposed of. After 30 days notice was up, he still had only picked up a few things. I ended up calling his ex and asked her if she or their kids wanted anything before I got rid of it all. Well, they had been left in the complete dark about our relationship being over. My ex had been lying to them saying I was sick and then he was sick with COVID, and that's why they hadn't been able to come over. I was not at all surprised at this point. I figured that she didn't know about the rest of it either, and so I told her. She is livid, especially about the money of their kids' education since it was part of their divorce agreement. Anyway, the kids got all what they wanted, and I had the charity come and pick up the rest. It feels a lot better now that there is a completely clean break. Yes, I have gotten the locks changed and blocked his number. Since there is no reason for me to have contact with him anymore, this is probably the last time I'll be posting. I think in the future I will probably look for more transparency when it comes to financials in any serious future relationships. With how much he was lying, I can only imagine what else he may have been lying about. Had I known more, I don't think he would have been able to hide things. I'm just so grateful and relieved that I was able to protect myself and my children. Update 3. I know I said that would be my last update. It's not only really necessary for me to make another, but now I'm kind of using this as a form of journaling, which I've found cathartic. The previous posts are all under my username. I only had one run-in with my ex since the last incident. He came to my house. I only spoke to him through the camera. He asked about getting his things. I told him that I had already got rid of everything as I had warned him, but that his kids had taken some things. I also told him he needed to leave and to not come back. Surprisingly, he didn't make a big fuss about it. He just said okay and that he was sorry for bothering me before he left. But he did look very tired, so maybe that's why. I have not seen him since, and apparently his ex and his kids haven't heard from him in all this time either. This update had more to do with them than my ex, actually. His ex contacted me to ask about him. She wanted to know if I had heard from him or had his new contact information. His phone is apparently no longer in service. I told her how I hadn't had any contact with his since the aforementioned visit. She also asked if she and I could meet up for coffee and talk. I declined because honestly I couldn't think of a reason for us to meet up, though I did offer to pass on any information about him if I heard anything. She apparently wanted to talk to me about helping her pay for her eldest child's, who is now a senior in high school education next year. She also subtly implied that there was some fault on my part for their lack of funds. I rather cowardly told her I would think about it and ended the call. To be honest, I feel like it's an unfair position she's putting me in. The main reason being that her children don't seem to care for me. We got along all right while I was with their dad. However, since I ended things with him, it has been complete silence from them. I did try to reach out to them to see if they were okay. They never responded. Even when they came over to get their things, they ignored me and my youngest. However, I did get a message after the call with her mom about how she missed me. The timing, though, just makes it seem sort of like manipulation to get money out of me. Edit. I have since blocked all of them. Story 3. My 36 female, husband 35 male lied to me about a trip. How can I ever trust him again? We have been together over 5 years and married for 4 months. We also have an infant daughter. His good friend is getting married and he sort of casually mentioned the bachelor party a couple of months ago. I assumed it was going to be where they're from and where the wedding is, and when I mentioned it maybe a month after he brought it up, he said, no, it's in Miami. Okay, he was never super detailed and avoided speaking much about it. I don't really agree with the whole idea of bachelor parties, but he acts like I'm the only one of his friends and spouses who might even think twice. The only thing that I mentioned was that it wasn't the best time because I'm back from maternity leave and he is caring for the baby while he is on leave. He did suggest a backup plan of asking a relative to come by. I work at home, but we also have a young dog that goes crazy when new people are around, and I would spend the whole time listening to him bark or dealing with him. Also, the baby can't go anywhere else because she refuses to bottle. So he never asked but made the plan, and I didn't protest because I'm made to look like the only one who cares about this sort of thing. Also, he told me last minute he was leaving Wednesday and not Thursday, leaving me down another work day. He acted like it was a mistake, but I'm not sure. Anyway, the second day he was gone, I had to call him for something related to a contractor. He called me the night before and connection was terrible. Well, the phone rings and it's not the same ring as usual, so I look it up, and that is the ring used when you're in Europe or South America. Okay, so I investigate to get facts before I ask. I check and his passport is gone. In his email on our laptop, there is a booking confirmation from Miami to Colombia made over 2 months ago. So I text and ask if he is in Miami. I should have just waited, but I'm too impatient, and I tell him that that's the last time he will ever lie to me. He gets back to me and tells me he was just told to bring his passport and he didn't plan for anything. He already tried to set this lie up before he left by telling me he was told there were a lot of surprises, but never said anything about a passport. Well, obviously, it is all a lie because it was booked months ago by him. So I press and he still doesn't admit to it. But I tell him I know the truth, cuss him out, and ignore him. On top of all that, he stays there, still doing whatever he is doing. Oh, and it's Mother's Day weekend, and I just get a text that says Happy Mother's Day, and there's something in the mail. There's not. I still mostly ignore him. Of course, I am furious. Obviously, he lied because of what happens down there. He could have been doing the same in Miami, though, but he felt he needed to lie. He kept saying he's just dancing with no one and showing everyone his ring when they tried to speak with him. I don't believe it for a minute. There were red flags before and a history of mistrust on his part, and besides having my daughter, my biggest regret is not leaving him then. I now feel like I'm stuck for my daughter's sake and don't know what to do. He comes home today. I don't want to be here, but I need to be with the baby so I can work, and I know he won't leave either. So do I just pretend that I'm not absolutely disgusted at the sight of him for her sake? TLDR, husband said he was going to Miami for a bachelor party, and I found out he went to Colombia. We have a new baby and I feel stuck. Edit to add paragraphs. Edit. Just to be clear, it was his plane ticket that was booked by him over 2 months ago. It was a best man or groomsman that planned the entire thing. Still a liar regardless, but I think it came across as if he booked the whole thing and not just his plane ticket. That's all for today. If you're enjoying this story, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you.